A gunshot echoes in the night. A man collapses onto the tarmac before he even realizes he's been hit. From the shadows, Drasa exhales, lowering her sniper rifle. She retrieves the spent shell casing, a reminder of another life taken. Afterward, a man named Levi wakes from a nightmare. Unable to sleep, he gets up and leaves his home. He spends the night by the sea, lost in thought. By morning, a text message arrives, leading him to a Marine Corps base. Levi meets Agent Bartholomew, a former elite sniper. She read through his files and found out he has 113 confirmed kills. She asked questions, which Levi answered accurately. Though once a private contractor, he now refuses all work after being deemed unfit by a military psychologist. He has no family, no attachments, and no reason to fight the ruling. Meanwhile, in a Lithuanian village, Erikas plays the accordion at a cemetery. His daughter Drasa joins him. It's the anniversary of her mother's death. He knows about her recent assassination. She admits it was difficult. The target had 4 children. But Erikas reminds her of the countless lives lost because of his illegal weapons trade. Drasa gives him a spent shell casing. Then he asks her to stay, but she refuses. She has orders to report to Moscow. Even though he disapproves, Drasa has already made her choice. He is terminally ill and refuses to die in pain. He has chosen to end his life on Valentine's Day and asks her, wherever she may be, to light a candle, look at Orion, and say goodbye. Afterward, Levi departs on another mission. His plane can't enter the restricted zone ahead, so he must travel 38 kilometers on foot. His gear is confiscated except for a sealed envelope containing his orders. He parachutes into a dense forest and reaches his post. Then a soldier named JD welcomes him. JD leads him to the tower, his home for the next year. It's self-sufficient, with solar panels, a generator, and rainwater collection. Across the gorge stands an identical Eastern Bloc outpost, but the ravine, lined with mines and traps, makes it unreachable. Each side monitors its own border. Levi's job is simple: patrol the western border and inspect defenses. Communication happens once a month, while satellite transmitters mask the area from enemy surveillance. A panic button alerts authorities if needed. But JD warns if the sirens ever sound, Levi should run. Levi suspects the mission is a Cold War relic. For 75 years, soldiers from the west and east have guarded opposite sides of the gorge, not to protect borders, but to keep something inside from escaping. When JD arrived a year ago, he thought his predecessor was delusional until he saw the Hollow Men. No one knows what they are. The name comes from an old poem. Long ago, soldiers were sent in, but none returned. After that, containment became the only option. JD shares these eerie stories before heading to his extraction point. As a helicopter arrives, he climbs the rope, relieved to be leaving, but the man shoots him, his body dropping into the forest below, and the man reports to Bartholomew. Afterward, Levi carries out his duties, patrolling, checking weapons, and maintaining his task. He radios in his reports. At the same time, he reads from the collection of books left behind by past centuries. One day, he hears a sound of a saw from the opposite outpost. Through his binoculars, he spots Drasa. She glances toward him but returns to her task when he moves away. That night, Levi wakes from a nightmare, disoriented. He grabs his rifle, knocking over a glass, leaving bloody footprints on the floor. Regaining his senses, he looks through his binoculars. Drasa is still awake, her room dimly lit by candles. When she notices his gaze, she blows them out and vanishes into the darkness. Later, celebrating her birthday, Drasa grows bored and starts watching Levi. She fires a shot into the air to get his attention, then holds up a sign asking for his name. Levi reminds her that contact is forbidden, but she doesn't care. It's her birthday. She writes her name and declares she'll do as she pleases. Levi laughs and plays along, writing his name and suggesting a drink. Drasa puts on music and invites him to dance. He insists he can't, but she challenges him. Surely he's good at something. Levi admits he's an excellent sniper. Drasa wants proof. Drasa shoots first, knocking Levi's target away. In response, he shoots her bottle of wine with a single shot. She then balances another bottle on her head, daring him to try again. But before he can fire, she stumbles, startled by movement below. Levi spots a strange tree-like creature and shoots just as it steps on a mine, exploding into pieces. More creatures begin climbing the walls. Drasa joins in, both firing at the advancing monsters. As Drasa steps back, twisted branch-like hands grip the ledge, pulling a monstrous figure over. Levi takes the shot, covering her, but then he sees hollow men swarming her side of the gorge. Without hesitation, he fires across, helping her fight them off. Explosions tear through the edge of the gorge, sending Drasa to the ground. Levi lays down heavy machine gun fire to protect her, just as she had done for him moments earlier. When the battle finally ends, they catch their breath. Drasa, noticing a wound she hadn't felt before, scribbles a note to Levi that it is the best birthday ever. At dawn, Levi surveys the damage, welding broken fences and laying new mines. Suddenly, a drone rises from the gorge. The turret locks on, but after a tense moment, the drone flies away and the gun powers down. Another month passes. Levi stays busy with duty while Drasa plays the piano. One evening, she spots a glowing Christmas tree across the gorge. A message from Levi. They build snowmen, name them after each other, and even start playing chess. One night, they have a drum battle, banging on whatever they can find. In February, Levi wakes from a nightmare and notices Drasa is awake too. The next morning, he writes her a note, but she doesn't reply. It's February 14th. She plays a Bach record and cries, remembering her father. When Levi asks, she admits she's struggling and wishes he were with her. That night, restless, he notices a quote about courage and gets an idea. At dawn, Drasa watches in shock as Levi fires a grenade across the gorge, trailing a rope behind it. She rushes to secure it. She then sees Levi holding a note, an invitation to dinner. Levi cleans up, picks wildflowers, and launches himself across the makeshift cable. Slowing before reaching the other side, he struggles the last few meters. Drasa smirks as he arrives, exhausted. She told him she made a rabbit pie and accepted the flowers with a smile. Up close, Levi finds her even more beautiful than he imagined. She suggests he wash up but plays a trick as he does, hanging his spare clothes just out of reach, forcing him to dash around naked. Later, they try to guess where they are, but neither knows. They were drugged during transport. Levi is certain they're somewhere in the northern hemisphere. When Levi reveals he's a sniper, Drasa immediately recognizes his legendary shot in Yemen. He shifts the conversation to his childhood in Oregon, while Drasa recalls her father's warning not to seek the full truth about their mission. That night, she convinces Levi to dance. After their dance, they started kissing, leading to an intimate moment. After they grow closer, talking for hours. He admits he wrote her a poem but refuses to recite it. In the morning, Levi says goodbye and heads back across the gorge. Just as he nears his side, a mine explodes, snapping the rope. He plummets into the gorge. Without hesitation, Drasa grabs a parachute and jumps after him, crashing into a raging river and barely surviving as she cuts herself free. Levi, unconscious, hangs from a massive tree until its branches come alive, turning into a monstrous creature. He wakes just in time to shoot it. Hearing the gunfire, Drasa fights through the fog. Levi falls into the roots, which begin pulling him underground. Just as a giant maw opens to devour him, Drasa arrives, blasting the roots back with gunfire. Levi thanks her, but she gestures. It's what he would have done. As they search for a way out, something charges at them through the mist. A horse made of tangled roots, ridden by a plant-like humanoid. It dodges their bullets and lunges at Drasa. They barely survive the attack. Levi suspects these creatures feed on living humans. Then Drasa realizes they lost their rope in the river. Climbing back up is no longer an option. She suggests following the river, hoping for another way out. Levi examines the fallen rider and notices a 1940s military uniform. These must be the missing cavalrymen. As they move forward, they pass twisted trees and shrubs eerily shaped like humans. Soon, they find the ruins of a collapsed church, its pews filled with skeletal remains. Drasa urges Levi to leave, but before they can, giant spiders drop from the ceiling. They open fire, racing for the exit as the corpses begin to stir. Drasa launches a grenade, igniting the church and buying them time to escape. With monsters everywhere, hiding is impossible. Drasa suggests staying close to the gorge wall to avoid attacks from behind. As they run, they stumble upon a hidden entrance, a hangar built into the rock. Inside, they barricade themselves and rest. Exploring the space, they realize it's an old underground base. In one room, they find a lab filled with ancient equipment. Levi discovers a reel of film and a working projector. The footage reveals a chilling truth. During World War II, a secret coalition of Eastern and Western nations formed. While Oppenheimer worked on the atomic bomb, they were developing something even deadlier, a chemical warhead of unprecedented power. A powerful earthquake shakes the gorge, destroying the lab. The disaster caused a biochemical contamination that fused human DNA with plants, animals, and insects, turning people into monsters. However, some individuals prove resistant. If no mutation appears within 5 days, they are immune. In the film, a scientist's body begins mutating before their eyes. Drasa notices a sealed ampule containing an unknown solution. The scientist explains that humanity was spared only because the gorge is isolated. She begs for forgiveness, praying for mercy before the footage stops. Then they discover a room filled with modern equipment, far too advanced for the 1940s. The lab had been operational until recently. Levi boots up a computer and sees the name of a private military organization, Darklight. They were never working for a government, but for a powerful private company. Darklight collects hybrid specimens worldwide, likely to create super soldiers and guard its secrets. Then Levi spots a program titled Stray Dog and remembers JD's warning. It's the code name for a thermal bomb meant to wipe out the gorge in case of a breach, but the earthquake must have disabled it. Realizing they might not make it out, Levi tells Drasa it was still worth it, because he met her. They prepare to leave when Drasa suddenly remembers her bag by the entrance, containing all their ammo. Then they go back, using a smoke grenade for cover. As Drasa grabs the bag, a long root lashes out from the haze, wrapping around her leg and yanking her away at high speed. Levi barely reacts before a root rider on horseback seizes her, disappearing into the darkness. Drasa slashes at the root, but before she can break free, she's slammed into something hard and blacks out. Levi tracks her to a ruined missile silo. Meanwhile, Drasa regains consciousness, suspended in a dark room, a hollow man in front of her. She struggles free and fights back, setting it on fire with a burning log, but it's too strong. Just in time, Levi arrives and finishes it off. Examining the remains, he realizes the monster was once one of his predecessors, the very officer who named them Hollow Men. They escape and stumble into a graveyard of damaged rockets, surrounded by plant-mutated humans. As they sneak past, one grabs Drasa. Levi fights to free her, and they escape. Then Drasa launches a grenade, setting the creatures ablaze and giving them time to escape. Then they find a functional jeep with a winch. Driving it to the cliff, Levi prepares to ascend while Drasa holds off Hollow Men. He secures the cable, and the jeep begins pulling them up, but the creatures keep coming. As they near the top, Levi nearly slips but grabs the frame just in time. He punctures the gas tank, dousing the Hollow Men in fuel before igniting it. Flames engulf the creatures, and the jeep crashes down, taking them with it. Hanging from the cliffside, Levi and Drasa cut the rope and finally climb to safety. Back at Drasa's tower, they rest and consider their next move. If they're infected, they'll have no choice but to go back down. They agree to wait 5 days for symptoms. Levi confesses that he was sent here because no one was looking for him, but now things are different. Drasa suggests escaping to France, but Levi insists they must destroy the gorge first. He crossed back over and radioed in a routine report, but Darklight's drones have detected movement from the eastern outpost. Bartholomew immediately orders Levi's elimination. Unbeknownst to him, she has been watching his every move on a secret video feed. The next morning, Levi and Drasa make their rounds when the aircraft arrives. They hide in the forest, but drones quickly track them. As they try to escape the kill zone, the drones open fire, wounding Levi. Drasa fights back, taking down the metal hunters. Meanwhile, Bartholomew finds a Buddha quote left by Levi and realizes it's time to escape. But before she can, Levi and Drasa launch an attack, triggering a chain reaction of explosions. The blasts expose the gorge to spy satellites, activating the Stray Dog protocol. A large explosion ensues. The helicopter takes off but is caught in the explosion. The shockwave hurls Levi into the river, and he vanishes into the current. Drasa waits 6 days in a cave, hoping for his return. When he doesn't come back, she leaves. Afterwards, she settles in France and finally opens Levi's last letter. Inside is the poem he wrote for her. As she reads, tears fall from her eyes. In the end, Drasa is working in a cafe. Unexpectedly, she sees Levi sitting at a table. Holding back from running to him, she simply asks why he was gone so long. Levi, smiling, admits he was badly injured, but now he's ready to work in her kitchen. She hugged him and they started kissing.